Welcome to Rhythms That Restore. I'm your friend Cherisse that's ready to journey beside you. Let's learn rhythms that can restore our minds, hearts, bodies, and spirits, and allow us to walk confidently in who God has called us to be. Are you ready? Pull up a chair. Let's get started. Hey everyone, happy February.
Wow.
February 2025.
It sure is. Gosh, who would have thought? My goodness.
Man, time is flying.
Way too fast.
Yeah.
But that's what they say.
I know.
It's fast when you least expect it.
I know.
It's a blessing.
And y'all, we, as you see, if you're watching us on YouTube, I am here in studio with my great friend, Dr. Jara Best Jones. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. It's just wonderful.
So
She's
glad.
awesome, I tell you.
We look, y'all, we have our tea. Have our tea.
Yes, ma'am. Yummy, yummy tea.
Yes. We are cozied up in here, and we already have been talking for 40 minutes without, oh my goodness, we've got to go ahead and hit record because there's so much goodness that we're wanting to share. And with it being the start of a brand new year, with it being February, obviously we talk a lot about heart and passion, and that's really part of your story. And so as I was reading over your notes, I thought that's just 100% who you are, loving well, leading well, and finding a cause that's true to your heart.
Absolutely.
So I know you're going to talk to us more about that, but I think that that's perfect because we're all really kind of primed for that.
This time of year.
Yeah, the new year, we're like,
right?
okay, I want to get involved. I want to walk in my gifting, and this is how I could do it.
Absolutely.
So let me tell everybody a little bit about how we know each other, and then I'll read your professional accolades. But y'all, I met Jara 13 years ago, a little over 13 years ago, in the hospital. The day Drew was born. I can't remember. I think you came in immediately before they took him to the NICU.
Yes. Because, and I can't remember the exact day, but I do remember. I saw him in the nurse, and he was a big guy then. He's a really big guy now.
Yeah.
But because he had to go, we saw some of his lab work, and knew he had to go just for what I call it is little extra eyes on him, because he needed little extra eyes. And my goodness, I walked in. I'll never forget. I was rounding up the nursery. Some days, oh goodness, I'd have 6 or 7 babies. Some days I'd have 1 or 2. And so I walked into your room. You had this cutest little setup on the side for like treats for
for my nurses.
For the nurses in there. I was like, well, my goodness, this is great. Usually people don't even know when I come in the rooms, but she's got a whole setup over here. I was like, how sweet is I was more impressed with that. I was like, my goodness, this is great. But I mean, as soon as you walk in and you see Cherisse, I could see her concern on her face, but she still had a smile. Oh my goodness. And she was so sweet and just so, and I'm trying to, reassure, we're just going to take him there for a little bit, do some eyes on him, get his blood work done. And I could tell you were worried and concerned, and you and Matt, where I was like, it's going to be okay. And you were just like,
yes.
But that smile, it's always that beautiful smile.
And you had just met me, and I immediately hugged you and started crying.
Right.
I'm sure you were like, who is this girl?
No, I much prefer that than some of the other things I would do.
Man.
But yeah.
It had already been such a long road. And because for those y'all might not know, so I ended up on bed rest. Well, I ended up going into preterm labor at 21 weeks with Drew. And because we lived so far away, about an hour and a half from the hospital, they kept me at the hospital. And so that was September 15th until I made it until October 30th.
So about 6
weeks.
7 weeks.
Yeah.
Yes, in the hospital.
In the hospital. Such a ridiculous story I can't even get into. And so I remember just thinking, okay, I've made it this far. Let me go home. And when Jara walked in and told me, he's going to need to go to the NICU for about 10 more days, I thought, I haven't been home in 3 months. Oh my, it just was overwhelming. But I was so grateful when you told me, look, I have 3 boys of my own.
Yes.
And it was just such a God-aligned moment.
It was.
He knew I needed a boy mom friend that would not only understand all the medical stuff, but that. And so that was probably my lowest time, but also highest time.
Right.
Like where God works.
It's always hard, especially with a brand new, I call them presents, a brand new little human that you're responsible for. And, spent 6 weeks in the hospital, all the preparation and things you've gone through, and then have to hear something like that. It's never, and it's hard to tell somebody that, because that, they're ready to go. And that, just want to emphasize, like, it's, we want to make sure when you get home, you don't have to come back till it's time to come back. And so it's always hard telling them that. But when you see them, when they do go home, and you see them after they've been home, and just that relief and that enlightenment, it's such a relief.
Yeah.
So it was. So,
right.
But couldn't tell looking at him now.
Yeah. He just walked by the office and Jara was like, oh my gosh, is that Drew? He's like 6'2" almost and 180 pounds.
But taller.
Yeah.
Than you. Yeah.
Everybody says, has Drew always been this big? I'm like, he's always. Yeah. He was the biggest kid in the NICU.
He was.
Yeah. Surely, guys. Hopefully this kid will get a basketball scholarship.
Well, yeah, you never know.
Something. But that's how we met. And then truly over the last 13 years, we have journeyed through so much life. Like your middle school, high school years with your boys and college. And then now we're entering into those. And so I'm very grateful that you have gone before me.
Absolutely. And it's all still a learning. Yeah. Different phases of parenting, I tell you. We talk about that all the time.
Yeah, we always do. And really, we have been journeying, and we'll talk about this too, but we've been journeying through learning how to slow down, learning how to release and open our hands and surrender. Yes. And we really have learned all of this at the same time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important that the Lord, I need to get these two together now.
He's like, oh boy, come here, you too.
Right. She definitely needs it. Talking about me, and she needs to help her. They need to help each other. So
yeah. So it's been really, really fun. But I also really wanted you to be on because of your story, not only in who you are as a woman and as a wife and as a mom, but also who you are professionally. I think resonates with so many women and men that listen. And so that's why I really wanted to shine a light on your story and have everybody hear it, because I want them to know that if they're feeling that way too, they are not the only one.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So let me tell them a little bit about you professionally. And then as y'all can see, we have so much we want to talk to you about. So Dr. Jara Best Jones graduated from Tennessee State University in 1994 with a Bachelor of Science in Medical Technology. She obtained her medical degree from the University of Tennessee College of Medicine in Memphis, Tennessee, and completed her pediatric residency at Le Bonheur Children's Hospital. After completing her residency, she joined Pediatric Consultants and Le Bonheur Pediatrics and practiced as a general pediatrician for 20 years and retiring from clinical medicine in May of 2024. So just this last May. Dr. Best Jones has also served as the Tennessee Market Medical Director at Equality Health until October 2024. We're going to talk about that. Dr. Best Jones has also served on several boards throughout Memphis and Shelby County. She was a member of the board of directors for the Children's Museum of Memphis from 2012 to 2018 and the Exchange Club Family Center, now the Kindred Place, from 2011 to 2017. And in 2013, she won the Volunteer Mid-South Adult Volunteer of the Year Award for her work with the parenting program for teen moms and the domestic violence programs for women and the children at the Exchange Family Center. I can believe that for sure. She's now known as the Kindred Place. Yes. Dr. Best Jones has also served on the Foster Care Review Board and was a board member for the Hagar Center, a nonprofit organization that provided comprehensive services for teen parents. She is currently on the board of directors for the Women's Advocacy Center, which provides services and support for women and children in Shelby County who have been victims of domestic abuse. And everybody got to meet Ramona. Yes.
She's amazing. I love Ramona.
So if y'all missed this episode from Ramona Jackson, she taught us all about Sabbath. Yes. Oh my, y'all go back and listen.
Listen to that one.
Man, Ramona. So Ramona, really, she founded the Women's
Mhm.
Advocacy Center.
Absolutely.
And just a phenomenal woman, great friend. I remember the day that she shared that dream of wanting to start it.
And she did it, and she's doing it well.
It's so incredible, you guys. So if
doing it well.
Yes, if y'all have not heard of the Women's Advocacy Center, please look it up. Such an incredible organization to be a part of. So we'll come back to that. Dr. Best Jones is an active member of Bluff City Medical Society, the Memphis chapter of Jack and Jill of America, incorporated with Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. Love that. Shout out. She has held leadership positions in each of these organizations, and she currently serves as a vice president of Bluff City Medical Society.
Yes.
Did not know that.
Yes.
Dr. Best Jones and her husband Kent love all things Memphis Grizzlies and have been season ticket holders since 2001.
Yes.
I've never been to a Grizzlies game.
Cherisse.
I know.
Oh my
Do
goodness.
I even live in the city of
Oh my
Memphis?
goodness. We're going to have to get you.
I know.
Oh, my goodness.
You know.
We'll work on that one.
Yes. She enjoys traveling, which I know so much you guys are going to find out. She loves traveling, baking, serving others in need. Of all the leadership positions that she has held throughout her career, her most important and gratifying job has been raising her 3 amazing sons for the last 25 years.
Yes.
Incredible.
25.
25.
I can't believe it sometimes.
How many years have you and Kent been married?
Oh my gosh.
No.
We met when we were 19.
Babies.
We were babies. You basically grown up.
Did y'all meet in
together.
college?
So, yeah, after our freshman year in college,
Okay.
he went to school in Atlanta at Morehouse, and I was in Nashville. And we came home for the summer. You know, you come home from the summer, and we were on Beale Street downtown.
Every great love story starts on Beale Street.
Beale Street, right? So we were on Beale Street with our friends, and some of one of my really good girlfriends here went to high school with them. So that's how we met. Thanks, Keitra.
Oh,
yes. And then, but like I said, grew up together through med school, finished college, through med school, through the boys. So we always stay since we were 19.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just the other day, you know.
Right.
It
feels like the other day.
It does. I'm telling you, and blink and you look and you have grown kids about to get married and colleging and high school graduations. And so, yes, it really goes by fast, except when you're in the midst of it. But that's another story.
That is true. That is true. But I know that. Like, we've even been counting up, and we have 5 more summers until Drew goes off to college.
That's right.
Man.
Yeah. And they think, oh, that's forever. It's a long time.
Yeah.
And when they hit high school is when it just goes by so fast. And, you know, you're, like I said, when you're in the midst of it and that day-to-day practice here, taking here, carrying here, that conference, that, you know, all of the things, it doesn't seem like it's ever going to end.
I know.
And then when you're, you know, they're walking across the stage graduating and you're sending them off or dropping them off at college and you're in the car like, okay, now what? And then you go through it, you know, but it's just those different phases.
Yeah. I remember watching you and the boys, all 3 were all playing sports and all doing all the things and thinking, how is she doing it with 3? And now just have watched as you've launched 2 and about to launch the 3rd.
Yeah.
And I think, and even just in the season that you're in right now too, of so much newness.
Yes.
So much newness.
Right?
Yeah. But I think that really that a lot of women identify, and men, with that story.
Yes, they do. You know, when you're raising your kids, you have all these expectations and plans for them, and they're all, of course, wonderful, but you have to make sure you have that wiggle room for when they're wanting to do what they want to do. And it's, you know, sometimes it's really hard. Like, you know, I just don't think that's a great idea. And you have to sometimes rein yourself in, especially with my personality. But it's, they all know it's coming from a good place. And, you know, you're telling them like over and over, and you're like, I know you heard me this time. You don't think it ever sinks in. And then you get to when they're early 20s and that middle 20s, and you hear some of your words coming back to you like, oh, they did listen.
Does that have something to do with what is it? You say the prefrontal cortex?
That prefrontal. Their brains are not finished developing until they're 24, 25.
So they're like,
that frontal lobe is still going through some changes. So, and you gotta remember that, especially in college.
Right.
And college is such a, you know, big change for all kids. You know, they're learning who they are. what they want to do, which does change, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
And just experiencing so many different things. And as a parent, you want to, of course, you want to say, don't do it. Don't do it. I'm telling you, don't do it. Sometimes you just have to let them experience it and learn and grow. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's hard to watch. Sometimes you're, cheering them on in the back, but you got to stay cool about it. But just watching them grow into, the young adults,
mm-hmm.
And I always tell my friends, parenting these young adults is something else. It's another growing experience.
Mm-hmm.
And, I always tell people, especially in practice, when they're those preteens and those teenage years, mm-hmm. you have to remind parents that, you've never been a parent to this 13-year-old. This 13-year-old has never been 13. Right. So they're learning as you're learning, and to give yourself, both of you, some grace as you move through that time of life, because it can get pretty rough.
That's so true.
It is. So just kind of remember, like, okay, he hasn't been 15 before. I haven't had to parent this 15-year-old before. So let's see where we can kind of meet mm-hmm. in the middle mm-hmm. and get what we need done.
I think too, I heard a mom friend say this mm-hmm. last week. She said so many times she'll hear friends say, oh, like, I've launched all my kids and I'm so sad. And she said, of course, there's like that grieving process. She said, but you really do have so many more years of parenting. Yes. And I know you're in the thick of it.
So many.
And you're just as needed with adult children or kids in college, but it's just different. It is emotional. Like you're almost like a coach.
Exactly.
At that point.
It is. And of course, sometimes they'll just call wanting mom, just wanting you to be mom mm-hmm. or literally, my 25-year-old called, Mom, when did I have my last tetanus shot? Well, son, mm-hmm. I sent you that shot record. Remember? Yeah, can you send it again?
Oh,
sure. So,
right.
It's still that thing. Mm-hmm. And then, when that same son planning a wedding, mm-hmm. Mom, what do you think we should do about this? And I was like, I don't know. Mm. Okay, try this. So it's still, you still question yourself, but you're, like you said, you're almost like that coach and mm-hmm. that cheerleader. You're mm-hmm. encouraging them and still providing a little redirection when you think they need it. Mm-hmm. They might accept it, they might not, but you know that you've offered it.
It's pretty cool.
It is. It's fun to watch mm-hmm. and just watching them interact with each other at these ages. Boys never stop wrestling, just so you know.
Great.
Doesn't stop. No matter the age, no matter where they are, somebody's going to be in a headlock if they all get together some type of way.
I know. I asked Jara a couple weeks ago, you guys, I said, how am I going to keep him alive until he's 18? Like, what in the world? And they just make such bonehead decisions.
They do.
Yes.
Yeah. You just sit and nod some days like, yeah, that's not a good idea, son. But hey.
I know. Right. But that's how they learn. And
that's how they learn.
You want them to learn.
That's how they grow. They figure it out.
Oh,
they do.
I'm so grateful for all you boy moms that have walked before me. My goodness.
It's just I'll never forget my OB when he delivered my third son. He delivered all three of them. And he's like, well, this looks like the same baby you had a couple of years ago. But he said, there is a special place in heaven for a boy mom. I was like, you are absolutely right.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
There it is.
There is. We're here for it.
We're here for it, right?
Oh, so we've got a lot of questions. So let's mm-hmm. get to it. I want to know this. I had asked Jara because I met her 13 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people that know you assume you're from Memphis, but you're not from Memphis.
No, I'm not.
Really?
I'm
Where
not.
Are you from?
My daddy, he passed away in December 24, 2021. He was in the Navy. So I'm actually a Navy brat.
Really?
I'm a Navy brat. I'm the third out of my brother and sister. So they actually traveled more than me. But so I was born in Portsmouth, Virginia, on the naval base there. We stayed there 2 weeks. And then after 2 weeks, we were transferred to New Jersey.
Okay.
So we stayed in Bayonne, New Jersey. My father, like I said, was in the Navy. So he would often go out to sea. So he'd be on the big Navy ships. He was a signalman. So we had to stay on the coast because he would be going out to sea. So he'd be gone, sometimes 2 or 3 weeks or sometimes a couple of months.
Really?
So we always were on a naval base surrounded by military families who to this day, we still have some really close friends from being on the base in New Jersey. And so Dad had decided, okay, I've had enough of being on the boats and on the coast, so we're going to move inland. I didn't know what he was talking about. I was like, oh.
How old were you?
I was 4.
Okay.
So my brother and sister were like, yay, they're older. So the only inland naval base, well, one of the few, I think it might be the only one, I'm not sure, was in Millington, Tennessee. It's the Naval Air Station.
Yeah.
So, we have our jets and the Blue Angels, everybody would come out to the Naval Air Station in Millington. So that was our next base. So moved here when I was 5 years old. And my mom tells me, she's hilarious. She's like, yeah, when we got here, she remembers distinctly because we drove into Memphis on the day of Elvis Presley's funeral.
In August?
In August.
Yes.
So she was like, well, there's just too much traffic out here.
What a day to...
So that's how we remember every year. They have this, celebrate,
yes.
memorial for them. And that's how me and my brother and sister remember when we came to Memphis.
Oh.
And so I grew up on a naval base when it was a full active base. Now it's more, I think administrative now. It's not near as active as it was when I grew up on the base. I mean, we had Navy, we had the sailors there, and the Marines were there too, which I never could quite figure out. And often they were on the barracks and stuff. So Dad worked on the barracks part of the base. So grew up on the base, literally on the base, which is like its own little. It is. It's definitely its own little microcosm. Mm-hmm. So lots of really good, close family friends from growing up on the base in Millington. And graduated from Millington Central High School.
Did you?
Yes.
You were there the whole time.
I was there the whole time.
Okay.
So graduated from Millington Central High School. So yeah.
And so did your sister and brother?
Yeah.
Okay.
They all did. They graduated from Millington, and Dad was like, okay. And I'll never forget. I was in the 5th grade, and our next station was going to be in New Orleans. And we were excited. We were high-five. Well, we're going to New Orleans. And he sat us down one day. Well, kids, I've got something to tell you. We're like, yeah, we're going. I'm retiring. We were like, oh, what? What does that mean? Because we were a military family. We're just used to moving every so often. Yeah. And Dad's family, his side of the family is in Kentucky. So he wanted to stay close to his family in Louisville, Kentucky. And so he decided, yes, I'm going to go ahead and retire after 25 years in the military. He joined right out of high school.
Really?
So he decided to retire, and we all looked at each other like, what does that mean? And my mom's like, that means we're not moving. We're staying here. So that's how we ended up staying here in Tennessee.
And so did you always stay in Memphis or in Millington?
Yeah, I always stayed in Millington.
Okay.
Until I, got married. And
yeah.
But my mom still lives in Millington, right outside of the base.
Okay.
So and she still goes to the commissary and tries to have us, come, Mom, let me go to the commissary. So we can
nice places
out there.
So what did your dad do after he finished?
After he retired, from military service, he still worked on the base. Okay. He was working with the enlisted men still, and he did a lot with the food and beverage part industry on there, on the base still. So he was retired from military service, but still worked on the base.
Okay.
So, gosh, he did that for years. I know well until I was a cop. So he never really retired.
Yeah.
And Mom, she's a nurse.
Okay.
Yes, Mom's been a nurse forever.
Really?
And she
was doing that while you guys were.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was a nurse while Dad was in the military. And when we moved here, she worked at St. Joseph Hospital, which got absorbed by St. Jude, that whole over there, but I got bought by Baptist. So she was at St. Joseph for years, and she worked in the OR. She was a scrub nurse.
Okay.
So she was there. I think Mom was a nurse for 40 plus years.
Oh my goodness.
And she didn't retire until my youngest started school. So I say she's retired. She won't sit down. She won't sit still, but she was a nurse forever. So she was my first exposure.
That's what I wondered.
Yes, she was. She would be on call because she was an OR nurse. So she'd have to go in for the surgeries and she'd be on call. I got to go in. Dr. So-and-so's operating on somebody. I was like, okay. So what does that mean? That's where the curiosity got sparked. And she, as I got older in high school, she was able to take me to the hospital, and I was a candy striper. Yes, I was.
Wow.
I worked as the little volunteer candy striper with the little red and white little apron in the hospital. But even she was able to get me the opportunity to go see some surgeries,
Wow.
just be an observer.
Mm-hmm.
This is way back in the day. But that was my first real exposure. And I knew yeah, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So
we were talking about a few weeks ago too. You said for any of the young women and men that you mentor that are thinking of medicine, you said you should always go and shadow and watch someone.
Find you a mentor who's already in the field that you think you're interested in. It's always helpful to see before you be. I always tell people that. And it might encourage you. Definitely it's going to encourage you. You get to speak with them and see what their process was to get where they are, and to actually to see what they do every day. Because different fields of medicine, have different days and different offices and different clinics and different fields. And if, find the one that really speaks to you, because medicine's a hard journey. It definitely is. And so you have to be committed. And I always tell you, don't go into medicine just to make a lot of money. I mean, that's definitely these days not a reason to go into any position. Correct. It has to be something that's in your soul and in your heart, and that your purpose that the Lord has given you. But make sure it's what you want to do, because it can change. Like I said, there's different ways to do the same thing. There are.
Yeah, I remembered you saying that. I thought that's good advice for any of us. Because you can think it looks one way, but until you've been there and watched someone
do it,
that will really let you know.
It really lets you know, and especially if you're able to get a good mentor that can be with you as you journey through any career. To have a good mentor to bounce things off and get their advice and their recommendations and support.
And would you say for anyone that's like, oh, well, but I don't have a mentor, what advice would you give them? How to find one?
I always, my goodness, everything is so technology and advanced. Go on the Google.
That's right.
I mean, and even if they're if you're in high school or college, even if you could speak to a counselor, there's a lot of good information that might not even be on Google. But people that that they're 3 degrees of separation or whatever, everybody knows somebody some type of way. And if you just completely have no clue, or you don't have that access, you can call the hospital, call their volunteer office. Just ask.
Yeah.
I mean, it's especially these days, you can get on your phone, you can type it in. That doesn't work. Just ask.
Yeah. I think that sometimes we can believe a lie, like that I could never ask them. Yes. And that's such a lie, because and I'm sure you can say this too. Anyone who's ever reached out to say, I would love to spend time with you, I would love to learn from your story, I'd love to learn from you, usually like, okay, great.
Right. Yes. I had pre-med students or undergrad students at the University of Memphis. I went and did a talk a few months ago, and I encouraged them again to find your mentor. And one young lady, she said, well, can I call you and ask if I was like, well, yeah, here's my number. And I was able to, she wanted, I think, to shadow OB/GYN doctor. I was like, well, sure, let me call so-and-so. And literally that next 2 weeks, one of my good girlfriends, she was able to tell her to stop by the office. And so, yeah, it's just a matter of asking. Right. And like you said, if you ask, they're probably more than willing.
Yes.
To help you as you're trying to figure your way out through this life.
Neat. Well, now we know how you got a little bit of interest in medicine and got started. I did not know that. You had mentioned something that I thought, I wonder if her mom, she a surgeon? Because you had talked about surgery, but I did not know that. So let's talk about, I know that a pivotal point in your story recently has been kind of post-pandemic, really learning more about yourself, learning more about what God's been doing in and through you, through your story. But I also think a lot of us learned a lot about ourselves, but kind of talk about maybe even leading up to pandemic and then what God's really shown you in the last 5 years, 10 years.
Oh, wow. He's so many things, so many things. As I mentioned, the pandemic and when you go to medical school, you read about, all the things in history, how we developed this medicine and that medicine and what was occurring in the world to help these things get developed. We've read about pandemics. We learned about pandemics. Never in a million years thought we would actually live through a pandemic. The medical field went through a lot of changes during before, during, and after the pandemic, a lot of physicians, we were doing things we didn't know we could do, but we had to do to make sure we were helping to save these lives.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times, you hear stories about the heroes and stuff like that. There are so many stories about physicians and nurses and, my goodness, medical students and residents who were actually helping and working during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So many people in the medical profession lost their lives, but we don't really hear about that. But it was a lot.
Yeah.
And I always tell, and I remind my colleagues, I'm like, we went through a lot. And and then afterwards, we were going through I call it the healing process. Everybody went through a healing process. Many people lost loved ones. Many people's whole perspective, changed.
Yeah.
So in the midst of all that, I'm general peds. So, we had that period where a lot of the cases were adults, and, there was even, I'll never forget some talk, there were so many cases, we had those trucks that were being utilized as morgues and tent hospitals, all kinds of things. And initially didn't get too much impact in the peds world until later, where we had that other spike. And so we're seeing kids and in the ICUs and, having all the side effects. So as your work, as physicians, the way you train, you learn that this is what you have to do. This is what your calling is. This is that oath you took, and you're working and you're working and you're working and neglecting yourself. So after, I don't even want to say after, during the pandemic and after, as we're rebuilding, getting back to a routine that's never a routine.
Yeah.
You find that you're sitting there one day and you're like, what just happened? Where am I? Literally, where am I?
Yeah.
What just happened? And then, of course, you're still doing life. I'm still raising 3 boys who have been, oh my goodness. My oldest one was, he was an architect major at Mississippi State University, doing online learning. I don't know how he did it to this day, but he's a successful architect, so he did it. My middle son was a junior or senior in high school, his whole junior, senior years, online. And my youngest, well, I guess he was in middle school. So middle school was middle school.
Yeah.
So just going through all the changes with them, and then me realizing I need to do something else.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, my father had passed away on Christmas Eve on 2021. I had gone through, and I'm not even going to lie, I'd gone through a few episodes of burnout even earlier in my career. So, and you're always thinking like, I'm going through all this training. I'm a doctor. I'm supposed to do all these things. But when all those come in at once, and you're sitting there like, what happened? And I'll never forget, it was in September. I think it was September 15th. I was at work, working morning clinic. I went out it was lunch, took my lunch break, went out to my car and just bawled. I mean, like gut-wrenching, boo-hoo-hoo-hoo, crying. Got myself together, went back to clinic and saw 50 more people. So I was like, maybe I need to think about something, make some changes or a little change.
Yeah.
So, oh my goodness, spoke to a lot of colleagues who were going through and gone through the same thing. And they said, oh, first of all, you need to make sure you're right. Got me a therapist,
right?
Which is essential.
Yes.
She was so wonderful. And actually got me another coach. I had a coach and a therapist.
Awesome.
And a lot of good friends. So started healing through there. And of course, you talk about somebody who's been on their knees in their prayer closet. The pandemic had me on my knees daily, and started to, kind of figure my way through these. And then I really made myself sit still and listen. I'm doing all these things. I said, why don't you just sit down? And I heard the Lord say, there's more that I need you to do. I'm hard-headed. I admit it. I was like, well, I'm doing all of this. I'm doing this, and this. He's like, I need you to do more. And so I knew at that point, I was like, well, maybe it's time for me to kind of back down on my clinical stuff. Mind you, at this point, I'm still doing all my nonprofit stuff.
Oh, yeah, right.
My volunteer stuff. And I was getting so much enjoyment and fulfillment from that too. And practicing peds, I love pediatrics. I love kids. I mean, I still see some of my patients today, and I'm just running up and hugging them. But I knew it was going to be in the helping field.
Yeah,
I knew that's just who I am. That's just what I do. So when the Lord tells you, like, okay, there's something else I need you to do. I need you to do more. What do I get to planning? Okay, well, Logan graduates in 2 to 3 years. I'm going to do this, this, and this. I got this planned out. And now I can just look back, and I'm just saying, I'm sure God's just laughing at this one. Here she goes again, trying to plan out everything. Plans. I've already got it for her. I've already, I've got it laid out for her. I know what I have for her to do. Here she goes, trying again to plan it out herself. So
that's what we do.
That's what we do. Yeah. So I was like, okay, Lord, I'm going to get ready. I'm going to do this. Here's what it's going to look like. And he promptly told me, no, that's not how it's going to look like. Here's what's going to happen. And so when the opportunity for me to work with a Quality Health, which was a value-based healthcare company, to work from home, I was like, I don't know how to do that. That sounds fabulous, but what?
So foreign.
So foreign. Yes. Work from home. Okay. But he's like, this is what I need you to do next, so I can prepare you for what I'm having for you to do later. Went through that mental battle, like, I can't do that. I'm supposed to be practicing. I'm supposed to be, a physician. And one thing, one of my friends, I'll never forget, she's like, you will never not be a doctor.
Yeah.
She said, think of it this way. All that training you did, it's not going to vanish, is it? No. That degree hanging on the wall is not going to go away, is it? No. You'll still have MD after your name, right? Yes. But you can use all those skills, all that wisdom, all that knowledge in a different way.
Right.
To still benefit the kids and, I call all my patients babies, just so you know.
Right.
I mean, Drew's a whole 6'2", and I still go, well, there's my baby Drew, right? But just knowing that there was something else that he wanted me to do, and he put this opportunity in front of me.
Yeah. I
was like, okay, Lord, I'm going to do this. I'm going to step out and see what happens. And started working. And a lot of people don't know this. I was actually working for 2 companies at the same time. So as I was transitioning out of clinical practice, I had started working with the company already part-time.
Okay.
Just so I could learn, this side of medicine.
Right.
It was more on the business side and value-based side. So I was learning a whole new skill while still practicing. Man. So I could see what I was doing in medicine on the clinical side, how it is impacted on this business side. So I'm looking back now, I said, he was teaching me that you can do these, you can do this. Because, that doubt, always there, like, I'm not supposed to be, I can't do this. I don't know what they're talking about in some of these meetings. He's like, well, you're learning. This is what I need you to learn. And so as I'm doing this, and I'll never forget, I came over to your house one day, and I was telling you about the new opportunity, the new job that I'm doing. When we sent out the notice, my clinic sent out the notice that I was leaving, I was getting a lot of calls like, excuse me, what does this mean? I don't know what this means. So came over and we were having our tea. And I was telling you, that the company had sent me a laptop to work from home and a whole screen and a keyboard, and that I never unpacked it. I didn't unpack it. And you were like, you go right ahead, and when you're ready, unpack it. Go ahead and unpack it. And I never did. I don't know if that was because I knew. I don't know if I knew, or I just wasn't ready.
Right.
As I was preparing for this next phase, but the company, which was great, they were going through a restructuring. So that position that I was in was eliminated. And so I'm sitting here like, well, what does that mean? I've never not worked.
Right.
Never not had a job. Since my mom reminded me, you've been working or in school since you were 15. Maybe you need to sit down. I was like, what does that mean? So, and I know once again, the Lord was like, okay, we did this. Now I need you to sit still. I was like, and do what? I mean, still that hard.
but I have time.
I know. So what am I supposed to do now?
Right.
And he is showing me I need you to sit still. And so the past few months, that's what now I have backslid a little bit and been doing some busy stuff, but it's stuff that I really truly enjoy. Working a lot with the Women's Advocacy Center, which has been a blessing, and learning more about the nonprofit side and how that works and how I can still utilize my skills there. I do some work with the St. Jude HPV initiative, which has been amazing. Anything related to St. Jude is amazing. But just to see how my knowledge on the pediatric side can be utilized to share more knowledge and just to help a wider base, you know, because when you're treating kids, you're treating the whole family.
You are
all the time. So any knowledge you can share with moms, dads, aunts, uncles, grandmas, grandpas, that ability to communicate and talk to them. You learn medicine too, but just be developing those relationships. And I think, you know, the more you do something different, you do it afraid. You know, it's the unknown, which, you know, unknown is uneasy. Unknown is uneasy, but knowing that each one of these steps, and I can confidently say, was organized by the Lord, because otherwise, why would I know about this type of value-based healthcare or you know, that kind of thing, that I could be utilized in that position, and that he's definitely preparing me for whatever's next. And so being able to sit back and really say, okay, I'm just going to sit back and listen and be confident in knowing that he's already had my destiny planned out for me. I don't have to know what it is. I just have to learn to be comfortable with that.
Yes. And I've had the privilege to watch all of these seasons.
You have, because Cherisse will send me something, a verse or a song, and literally I will be in the car and it's always right on time. I was in the Kohl's parking lot one day and you sent me this beautiful song, and I sat there and listened to it about 5 times and just let those words cover me, and I was able to get through the rest of my day. So thanks, Cherisse. I need that.
And I had
so many times she does that. She just doesn't know. So many times. Right on time. So.
Thank you. That was not where I was going with that.
I just had to put that nugget in there.
But it's been so interesting to watch your growth through that season. And I think that many of us, like, we have what we do, and we can think that's who we are.
Exactly.
And the Lord's like, this is what you do, but it's not who you are. And if we can tend to hold that really tight. Like, no, this is who I am. Absolutely. This is what I'm going to do. I can only see doing it this way.
That's right.
And so it's like God's been able to slowly open your hands, and he's like, but that's not who you are.
That's right.
And so I feel like I've watched you open your hands, and you've been taking these steps forward, and God's like, see, this is what I have.
Yes.
This is what I have. And it's as you've also like learned this slowing down process of like slowing down and surrender, really.
Yes, absolutely.
That he's been able to do some of this work, because you have been like, okay, Lord, what do you have for me? And I'm listening, and you've been walking in that.
Yes.
And so it's exciting to see that.
Yeah. And it's exciting to be in it, in the season.
Yeah.
And there's so many, you know, of course there's ups and downs, and you're human. We're definitely humans.
Right.
And so you know, you're always going to be like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Okay, yes, stop it. You know, stop it and listen. And those are those moments where I will go sit down and get my little cup of glazed donut loaf tea and sit and be still. It's like, well, okay, I'm listening now. You know, you have to stop those thoughts from bombarding you. And, you know, what if this, and what if this, and what if that? What if it all works out?
Gosh, right?
Exactly.
I remember, I don't know how many years ago it's been when, well, I don't remember. I'll ask you. When I invited you to one of the first silent retreats, I don't know if it was an overnight or if it was at Brittany's house.
I honestly think it was an overnight. Was it?
Or was it the rest retreat that we did?
It was before that, because I remember you were getting ready to do you were thinking about doing the rest retreat, and we went out to lunch the wolf of a brisket.
Okay, I remember that.
So it had to have been, the first one was before that.
Okay.
And I think it must have been at Brittany's house. Maybe it had,
So share with everybody, being a very busy mom and physician, what it was like when I mentioned something about like getting away and stillness.
Oh my goodness.
When you finally did that for yourself, what were some of the first things that you were like, tell us about that experience and what did you start hearing and listening?
Cherisse told me about a silent retreat. I was like, does that even go together? A silent and retreat? What does that mean? And she, she was so encouraging. So like, this is the best thing ever. It just gives you a time for you to really sit and hear from the Lord. I was like, well, of course I need to do that. But the first thing is, I don't have time. When am I going to do that? And it was just so happened. I have worked 4 days a week, and this was on my day off. It was a Thursday. So I was like, well, sure, I can do it one Thursday morning. And it's just a half a day too. So sure, I can do my other stuff, And I'll never forget, because you had your cute little bag. You had your bag, you had your teacup and your blanket and your slippers.
So much stuff.
I was like, well, and I admit, I brought a bag, but it was full of stuff that I thought, I got all this time. I can catch up on a whole bunch of stuff.
Do the things.
Do all the things. I had all my little to-do list. I said, I'm going to catch up on this, this, and this. And Cherisse was like, that's not what we do. You do this. So that first one, I remember I did bring a journal. So I knew I was going to be writing, and I brought I think a devotional or something. So the first hour I literally sat and was looking around like, what am I supposed to do? And so I went through my little bag, and I had all the things that I wasn't supposed to be doing, and I pulled them out, and I'm looking around, I put it back in, and then I got my little meditation book, and must have been the second hour, I guess. It finally hit that you're not supposed to do anything but sit still and listen. And when that really hit and I figured that out, the next 2 hours, I was like, okay, I need this. I need this in my life every day, but I definitely need this as a routine to actually have time set aside that's completely for me and the Lord is so invaluable. And I didn't realize how much you crave it once you do it. And you're like, okay, when's the next one? And how can I go? When are we having an overnight one? The first overnight one was in January. That was amazing. And that one I'll never forget, because I did bring some stuff to do that I wasn't supposed to do. But I had learned that I can bring it, but it wasn't going to get touched because I had been craving that time so much. Yeah. And and when you can sit still and just so plainly hear God encouraging you through different situations that you're going through, be it family stuff, be it work relationships, being relationship with God that you've been neglecting. And here it is, that time, because He wants to spend it with you, and that you and Him, that's your time. And to have a whole weekend to do it is even better. Yeah. And then to have a whole weekend without having that electronical device constantly going off in your head. Just to be able to sit still and be in solitude and be in silence is so, so encouraging. And it's so amazing. And I've told so many friends about it, and they're like, oh, what is that? They were just like me. I was like, even if you just go to one, just try it. Just try one. Well, and as soon as they get there and they come out, okay, that was great. When's the next one? Right. I mean, you literally crave that time, and you can incorporate it, throughout your day, but dedicated time that you write in your calendar, that you put in your schedule, that that's for you and the Lord, and you can look forward to that. Yeah. It's so great and so gratifying. So I love the retreat house. Oh my goodness. Right. Especially too, a lot of us are asking ourselves, new year. Okay. It's only February. So we can kind of put some of these rhythms in place. Absolutely. And we can look back at all right, what did I do last year? Did it work or did it not? And what are some new rhythms I can put in? And I think that all women and men, this is a rhythm. Our body and our soul craves union with God, connection. Yes. And especially in our culture. Yes. Oh, we are bombarded so much all the time. So giving our brains that time to stop,
having
Right.
to be turned on.
And it will. I mean, I allow myself a good 30 minutes to turn off.
Yeah.
Because your mind is going to be racing.
Whew, yeah.
And it does. And it's unfortunately used to racing and just going. And so you really have to tell yourself, slow down.
Yeah.
Be still.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy the silence
Mm-hmm.
and listen.
Yeah.
Just listen. And I was telling you earlier, I keep a silent retreat journal and literally just jot down. When I start hearing from the Lord, I'm just writing. And at one point I get to like 3 and 4 pages of just writing what he's telling me, what I'm feeling. And so I was kind of looking back through the pages from the different silent retreats. And like there's one, I can't remember when it was, but I had just gotten the new position and was writing about that. And is this what the Lord is wanting me to do? It must be, because he put everything in place so effortlessly for me to be able to transition out.
Mm-hmm.
Is this what he's showing me? And then the next entry was, I'd written about the armor of God, putting on the armor and all the different pieces of the armor and how that just kept coming to me over and over. He was preparing me for that next season, which was when the job was changed, or now I'm in this period of silence and listening. And so literally I can see how he was preparing me, and to hear that and see it so clearly now, look back
always
and realize that this is what he's preparing me for. And to have that confidence, knowing, even though I don't know what the next step is or the next opportunity is, knowing that it's there.
Yeah.
It gives you comfort. And that's the comfort that I'm in right now.
Mm.
It is.
I've never thought about having a specific silent retreat journal. That's so neat. But regardless of a specific journal,
yeah,
I feel like every friend that's been on has been saying journal.
Right.
And I'm learning that. But I think it's because we forget. We're so quick to forget.
Yes.
And so when we write it down, then we can go back to he is faithful. He has been faithful time and time again, because those lies creep in.
Yes.
Where we want to hear lack, we want to hear doubt and fear. But when we write it down, we can go back.
We can go back and see and remember how you were feeling at that time, and remember how excited you were, or remember just how nervous you were, and to know that you got through that period to this next one.
Right.
And that you'll be able to get through the next one.
Yeah.
And that you'll have that strength, and you'll have that guidance and that comfort from the Lord, knowing he's got you.
So
he's
true.
Got you.
Man. So what do you think, for speaking into everyone that's listening that is a very busy professional that might be like, that's nice for y'all. Good job being able to take time.
Right.
But what do you think would be some practices that for this new year, maybe just a simple daily practice or either a daily or weekly rhythm that they could get into that's really helped you be able to move into healing?
Right. And like you said, the busyness. I'm a victim of the busy. But one thing that I do, because everybody wakes up in the morning, a lot of people, unfortunately or fortunately, the first thing they do is they grab that phone. They grab your phone. I've been utilizing the Bible app.
Yes.
It is it's just one of the first, instead of tapping the other apps,
it'll pop right up.
And it'll give you that verse. You can do your Bible app. It'll give you the quick verse. It'll give you that daily meditation, and it'll give you 4 to 6 minute time in prayer.
I love those.
Yes. And if you can utilize, if you utilize it in the morning, it prepares you for the day. And if you're going through stuff, if you can remember something, that one piece of that Bible app meditation or something that spoke out to you during your prayer time, it'll help you get through the bumpy of the day, as I call it.
Sure.
On there. It's one small thing that I started, but it's been consistent, and that it's been helpful. And that, that'll help with that bit. You don't have to use it right in the morning. You can use it at lunch.
Right.
Just find that time when you're typing that app. Go ahead and just tap that Bible app too.
To just pause.
Just a pause. And it's not a long pause. It's a pause that can be, like I said, it can be a pause that'll help refocus you. If you're going through a yucky part of your day, you can tell my pediatric. You're going through a yucky part of the day. If you tap on that app instead of the other app that gives you bombards you with all kinds of yucky stuff.
Yes.
a quick tap on the Bible app.
Start there.
Just start there.
Start there.
And it's quick and easy.
Yeah.
And it's full of so many good nuggets. Another thing I do is everybody's usually driving somewhere. Find you a podcast. My favorite podcast right here. And I tell you, every time I listen to any episode, I'm usually in the middle of one episode, get back in the car, finish it up, sit in the car in your garage and finish listening to your episode. There's so many great nuggets and just wisdom and information from all the guests that you have on here. You can't not say, I don't have time to sit in my car and listen. If you're driving somewhere, you can probably find time to listen on that part. Right. So, because busy, I mean, everybody's busy,
it is,
but you make time for things that are important.
Right.
And not everybody can do a whole weekend retreat. I understand, especially if you got a bunch of little kids. My kids they were older by the time I really started retreating. I don't even think my 17-year-old wasn't there half the time. But just being able to, and you deserve it. You deserve that time.
Yeah.
To be with you and the Lord. I mean, just if it's important, and it is, and you're desiring, and you need it, you owe it to yourself. Just to give you some time to take a break.
I agree.
Take a break.
I love it. Thank you. I found that one last year during duck season. And so I would use the Bible app at night to help me calm down before I go to bed and help me recenter. So I would love to know, we have our last 3 minutes. Okay. Two things I really want to know. I have so much more though. We talked about how finding a cause that's close to your heart. And that really is what you've done your whole life. That's who you be in every day. So if you could go back and tell your 10-year-old self this, but really even telling all of us, what would you go back and tell 10-year-old Jara?
Oh goodness, I tell her a lot. First of all, one of the things my mom always, and she still says it to this day, is enjoy the moment. Anytime I'm going on a retreat or I'm going on one of my beach getaways, because my beach is the happy place. Anytime we're doing something for ourselves, she tells you to enjoy the moment. So I tell her, enjoy the moment, enjoy being 10 years old. I mean, there's so much time to worry about the other things, remember you're a kid and you deserve to play. You deserve to be happy, and that you are loved by your family, but most of all, that you are a blessed, beautiful child of God, and that He's got you. And don't ever forget that. And to, let your light shine, make sure that if you know that you're doing something good, know it comes from the Lord, and that, hey, that's okay. Remember who you are, but also most importantly, remember whose you are. Yeah. And keep that knowledge, keep it deep in your heart, but keep it on your face and your smile and who you are. But enjoy the moments. Play in the sun. Tell Dad to take you to the beach more often.
That's right. Learn how to pause in there.
Learn how to pause in there.
Yes. And because you walk in your gifting so much, for any of us are like, man, I want to find a cause that's close to mine. Like, what would be some parting words that you would have to speak into all of us this new year?
As we talked about, as we're moving into this new year, one thing I always encourage is just be kind to everybody. Everybody's looking for that one kind word as we're moving throughout our days. Just remember to be kind and be loving, and if you find it in your heart, think about a cause that means something to you, something that you can dedicate your time, talents, and tithes. If you can, a lot of time, it's just time, volunteering 1 or 2 days a month at a food bank or something. And if you can't think of anything, by all means, look into the Women's Advocacy Center. There's so many things. They don't have to be big and grandiose or serving on the board or anything. It can be like calling and say, hey, do y'all need any support for your 5K, that you're doing? Anything that, where you're giving it's going to fill you up, but it's also going to be able to fill somebody else's cup that might be in need. So just think about what means something to you, or an experience you might have had, or experience you see one of your friends going through. If there's an organization you think that could support you or them, just reach out.
Okay.
Reach out and do. It's so gratifying to you, and it's going to be gratifying to those who receive it as well.
So nice. Yeah. Just being able to get outside of ourselves.
Yes, Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
we definitely can, we can get self-focused, but when
Mhm.
we can stop and pause and think, how can I serve? How can I use these gifts and talents that I've been given? Well, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
And
I'm
using your gifts and talents to
Absolutely.
pour into us.
Absolutely. And thank you again for always. Oh, when I'm telling you, she's always on time, y'all. She's always on time.
Mm-mm.
She is.
God is always on time.
He is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me on this journey of restoration and renewal. Remember, you can stay connected with me between episodes by following me on Instagram. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to ensure you never miss an episode. And if you found value in our conversation today, I'd truly appreciate it if you leave a review on your favorite podcast platform or share the show with a friend who might benefit from these rhythms. Until next time, may you find peace in knowing that you can show up every day simply as you are. And that is enough. Take care.